massive platform and still get a tremendous amount of usage out of it. And 350 million users log into Facebook through their mobile devices. We were just talking before the session that 50-something% of the Fortune 500 still blocks access to Facebook through their networks. Doesn't matter. If you bought one of these, you can get on Facebook whenever you want. And brands and communities need to understand that more people would rather have a device that they buy themselves that gives them freedom to do what they want, rather than having a device that's assigned by their company where they can't do whatever they want. Twitter. Does everybody understand? Let me phrase it in a different way. Does anybody in the room think Twitter is just an absolute waste of time? Go ahead and be honest. Okay, good.
I used to have an account.
You used to have an account and you think it's a waste of time. No problem with that. I think Twitter's having an issue finding its way because of Facebook's massive popularity. But you can't deny that there is something going on with Twitter because 200 million tweets go through their network every single day. 200 million people talking about what they had for breakfast. It's more than that, right? It's people having conversations about what they want their government to do. It's a lot of very instantaneous, if an airline loses my luggage and I'm standing there at the baggage carousel and I'm armed with a smartphone, I'm going to talk about that brand in real time. If they're smart, they're going to listen and fix it. And I'll give you a good story about Alaska Airlines where I was flying from Las Vegas to Seattle. I left my Kindle in the seatback pocket of my flight. I realized that I had left my Kindle in the seatback pocket when I got home on that Friday night. Traced my steps back and I sent a tweet at Alaska Air. I lost my Kindle on the flight from Las Vegas to Seattle. Can you help me? 5 minutes later, they responded back, yes, go to this website, describe the item, and if we find it, we'll get back to you. It had a link in it. I clicked on the website. I filled out the description of the device, what flight I was on when I lost it. The next day, I got a call from Alaska Airlines saying, we have your Kindle. Give us the FedEx number. The next day, I had the Kindle. That initiated through Twitter. I'm telling you that right now. So I can have, starting with one connection coming into this meeting, now I have 30 or 40 additional connections, and I just gave Alaska Airlines a plug because they did something positive through social media. It's going to happen to every one of our collective brands. So we should be aware of that and try and amplify it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I used to think Twitter was a waste of time, and I really would never, I'm not the type of person who would follow a person's Twitter stream, but recently I discovered a way that I could, I'm sure everybody else knows this, I'm kind of slow on the uptake on these things, but when I discovered that there was an issue, a political issue that I was very passionate about, very interested in, and I found out that you could follow an issue on Twitter,
yes,
what people are saying about that issue. I look at that issue's Twitter stream every day, and I learn more from that Twitter stream than any other research
correct.
that I do online on that particular issue. It's very up to date. And so for me, leveraging Twitter to follow issues or topics is much more interesting than following a person's Twitter stream and being a follower of somebody's stream and checking in.
Justin Bieber, great example. Yeah, you're exactly right. The great thing about Twitter, and a lot of people ask me, why isn't Facebook just going to be like Friendster or MySpace or some of these other social networks that died very painful and long, sometimes long, sometimes very fast deaths. And the idea around openness, that you can do, we give a platform that has nothing on it, you can do with it what you want. And Twitter is exactly that. So among Twitter's 200 million users, they get grouped into, why am I using this? And a lot of people use it as a news feed, right? Or a search feed. Brands use it as a way to monitor mentions of their own brand or their competitors and then respond. Going back to airlines, because airlines are so easy to nag on, but Delta Assist is a Twitter feed that is a year old. They send out more tweets than any other airline. If you send a message to Delta Assist, they have very powerful infrastructure that's there to listen to the message and respond back to you. It also costs them a huge amount of money to deploy it, countering the notion that social media is free. But everyone can use Twitter for however they want, and you may use it just as a news feed to follow or track an issue and get commentary on that issue in real time. And then when you lose your bag, you're going to rent against your airline, and that's okay. We have a client in the higher education space that is taking the notion of an enrollment counselor and basically turning it into an online relationship manager. Well, they'll go out and they'll find people who discuss or are interested in certain topics, connect with them only on a personal level, and then at certain cues they'll say, "You ever considered, maybe enhancing your life through education, with a master's degree or something like that?" So, the openness of the platform, it's 140 characters, do with it whatever you want, is a really powerful thing. So your use of Twitter is exactly right, as is mine, as is anybody else's, except for those people who send spam. That's the category I'd like to get rid of. Just in case you hadn't seen it before, this is the first tweet ever. 2006 this happened, and you think about it, 2006 from one tweet to 200 million a day is pretty impressive. And it was really simple, just setting on my Twitter. That's my first tweet. It's, you remember Watson, get over here? That was this version of this, and I think he's probably disappointed that he didn't say something more prolific than just sitting on my Twitter. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. Here's a tweet from a guy who lives in rural Pakistan, and it says, "Go away, helicopter, before I take out my giant swatter." This guy was actually predicting a SEAL team that was about to land on a house about, a quarter of a mile away from him, right? And kill a guy we've been looking for a long, long time. This was the tweet that happened before everyone else in the world knew. He was just observing that there was a helicopter, and there's a stream of 10 or 15 tweets where he's like, "There's a helicopter here. It's not really normal for this time of year. Go away, helicopter, I'll get my fly swatter out." Little did he know that a historic event was unfolding right behind him. I can pull out so many of these where 140 character phrase had a real impact. You can look at Libya, you can look at Egypt, you can look at Iran, you can look at Occupy Wall Street, you can look at protests in London, and they started out with somebody saying it's time to say something. And they have a device, they have access, and they can say it whenever they want to whomever they want. As long as there's somebody willing to listen, then they can publish it, and it can, it can become famous. You can Google this and pull it off the internet as quick as you want. I know I'm running out of time, I must be. There's lots of social networks, and a lot of them are directly related to the economic development of rural areas. A lot of these will get consolidated, but if you can think of a topic, you can think of a social network that supports that topic. So some use cases of social media outside of saying what you had for breakfast. Civic participation. Pew Internet does lots of studies around if you have access to broadband and you have high penetration of smartphone devices, or the ability for individuals to get onto networks simply, then you're going to get an increase in civic participation. Some would argue that's not a very good thing. Some would argue that that is exactly what that broadband networks are designed to do. Digital literacy. Rural communities have access to global information. I mean, when you're talking about, you have a very specific issue, which I'll go into, that you wouldn't be able to get access to whether you're at your library or at your school, and now all of a sudden educators can go and they can talk about, okay, what really happened when SEALs went in to attack this compound in Pakistan. And then promoting commerce. Anybody here ever perused through Etsy before? So some people would say it's a social commerce site, some people would say it's a social network. And when you have high unemployment in some areas, people take to something that they're good at, making something by their hands, and they promote it online. And they have the ability to reach a worldwide audience through a social network. And then their friends who like their products share them through other social networks. And there are people who make a really good living making iPod cases or iPad cases or iPhone cases online. They had an idea and they sell them through Etsy, and they have a really substantial business. To give you an example of sort of the way that we get connected as a country, as a world, as issues, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I'll throw this in. There is one form of breast cancer, it's called triple negative breast cancer. It's 50% of breast cancer cases. It's very rare. It's also it tends to be much more difficult to treat than other types of breast cancer. Here's the website for triple negative breast cancer. You probably never find it. You might not even find it if you search for it on Google. But they have chosen to spread their message through a number of different social networks. Because it's so rare, women who are impacted by triple negative breast cancer, when they're diagnosed, have lots of questions. What do I do? Where do I go? Who's going to treat me for this? Does my doctor have the ability to treat me for this? And when you're in a rural area, it's even more so that way. So they've decided to publish a number of videos on YouTube and set up a Facebook page so that you can go to the top of the bar on Facebook and type in triple negative breast cancer. You're going to find this community of 2,136 people that are talking about this topic. So if you've been to the Susan Komen Facebook page with millions and millions of likes, you can say, well, it's pretty difficult to get lost in the conversation there. But down to a very rare type of breast cancer where 2,000 people are getting into a dialogue, it doesn't matter where you live. The only requirement is that you have the ability to connect. So I think I've taken my 20 minutes. Okay, I'll stop there, and then we can get into the Q&A afterwards. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Well, we'll defer the
Okay,
questions.
sounds good.
Yeah. Thank you, Leigh.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leigh. So we are going to have a Q&A interactive session that kind of gets into the meat and bones of how do you launch a social media campaign and how do you work on the content and reach the right audience, etc. during the Q&A. So do bring your examples and questions to that. But what I'd like to do is go ahead and have Mike come up and share with us his personal experience with social media. Thank you, Mike.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me. Angela. Give me a chance to go ahead and get started. But what I want to first do is just kind of lay the landscape of who I am and where I'm from. This is a rural teleconference, so I'm sure you guys are all mostly rural. You probably get that. Talk a little bit about talk a little bit of what brought me here today. The name of our company is Delta Communications, DBA Clearwave Communications. We've been operating in Southern Illinois since around 1996. As Angela said, my background is in the wireless industry. Been in it since about 1995. We were a sister company to a cellular operation. Started as a paging service provider, very rural area. And then we kind of lost our minds and decided to become a CLEC in 2002. Jumped into that business and expanded. We're a facilities-based operator. To date, prior to this grant, most of our business is in the telephone industry, offering telephone services. And then fast forward to the BTOP Awards and our grant. Why is that important? It really changed not only just Clearwave, but our region. Talking about the ruralness of our community, we're talking about 23 counties. All of them are on the economically distressed list at the federal government. Very, very depressed. While we weren't unserved, we were very underserved. And I can speak to this as an operator that over the last few years, getting the necessary bandwidth to continue providing service to our customers has been extremely challenging. Where there was long-haul fiber available, it was too far away from most people's networks, ours especially, and where it was available, it was extremely expensive. So long story short, we were really the poster child for BTOP in Southern Illinois. Being a private company, we were one of 50 private companies awarded funding. And there was other dynamics going on in our area, larger companies applying for funding as well. So to say we were a long shot to get this funding would be an understatement, but we managed to pull it off and win the award and change our area, hopefully. We're part of the Illinois Broadband Opportunities Partnership, which is a loosely tied partnership through 4 other entities, one of them being the state of Illinois, which operates a network in the central part of our state, which is directly to the north of us, which we'll be interconnecting with and exchanging fiber as a few of our initiatives. The grant award was $31.5 million. Total project budget $45 million. It's going to span 23 counties. We're running about 740 miles of buried fiber, middle mile fiber, and we'll be connecting roughly 230 anchor institutions, schools, libraries, healthcare providers, public safety entities, all of which to date, majority of them are operating off of T1 service. So that was the most widely available service. Very, very little fiber service availability in our area. Initially, we'll have services ranging from 10 megabits up to a gigabit. So we won this award, and my job as the head of sales and marketing is not only to put customers on this network, but figure out how we're going to comply with the programmatic requirements of outreach, and not only that, but we felt a duty to be a change agent or a catalyst in our area. This is something that our region had been working on for some years prior to this grant to figure out how to get this network built. On a side note, we knew it probably would never happen unless the federal government got involved, and we're very glad that they did. So, as I said previously, we were a small company. Prior to the grant, we were about 30 employees. About 1,500 commercial accounts and 3,000 residential customers. So very small company. If you come from a small company background, you know that our marketing budgets are generally pretty small. That's the last bucket that always gets filled, at least in my company. And so our efforts to grow this company have been extremely organic, and we like to characterize it as in the trench warfare. I mean, I've got a small team of account executives and business developers that we go knock on doors and try to secure business the best we can, competing against incumbents like Verizon, Frontier, AT&T, cable operators, and that kind of thing. I think we've been successful because we're a local company. Been doing business again in the area for a long period of time. Being from a rural community, if you are, you'll understand and appreciate this, that people in our area like to do business with local companies. They were fed up with the customer service, and sorry if any of you are in the room, but the incumbents that they felt that they were getting from them, and a smaller, nimbler company was just what they were looking for. We filled that niche, and we're on our way to being successful. But again, marketing has never been our big thing. It's been very organic, customer by customer growth, spreading good word of mouth. But again, as being the head of marketing, I've been looking at social media for some period of time. I had a close friend that runs a small boutique in my town, and she dove into social media a few years ago and would share with me the results that she was getting. Now she sells knickknacks and purses and a little bit of food and those kind of things, and she was using Facebook primarily to drive business into her store and was getting amazing results. I really didn't at the time see the fit. How am I going to get, we're an operator in 23 counties, how am I going to get people in my door, which we do have retail offices, but it's not really our primary focus. How am I going to get Facebook to work for us? Not only that, like a lot of you, I had some of the same concerns about putting my company out there on Facebook. We're good at what we do. We're not perfect. And so you give yourselves, like Leigh was saying, you're going to get the feedback instantaneously from your customers, and that frankly scared me a little bit. We do get from time to time our disgruntled customer, and do you really want them tweeting and posting on Facebook, their bad experience, and how do you handle those kind of things? And so I will say, if you are sitting out there and you haven't jumped in yet and you have those concerns, I had them too. But over time, what I saw was that Facebook was extremely viral. And we're a local company, so we're not looking to get our name out across the world or the country. I'm looking at 30 counties. If people know Clearwave's name in 30 counties, I'm doing great. And what I also saw happening at the same time was people, and I'll tell you a story. I actually created a Facebook account, I don't know, about 4 years ago. And I had it for a day. And I got home that night and I felt really silly about creating a Facebook account because, it's mostly college kids and young people on there. And I'm like, what are people going to think if I'm using Facebook? Especially my wife, she probably, what is he doing, So I canceled that account and I got away from it. But like I said, coming back to it, what I started to see was that Facebook was a medium that had serious and real commercial benefits to it. In fact, so much that I see this wave of commercialism coming out that sort of concerns me about the medium as a social medium rather than a commercial medium. So, but having said that, I still think it's a great place to be. And so, like, with this grant, we had this mission of getting the word out to people in our region that this new thing called broadband in high capacity is going to be in your area. You're not going to be far from it, that you need to know about this and that you need to take action. And so we decided to dive in and get into social media as one of our ways of doing that. This slide's a little bit out of order. So the purpose was that initially, we're, again, a small operation. I wear many hats. If you run a company, taking out the trash is not, beyond my duty. So, did I have time to do this? My first answer was no, I don't really have time to do this. And I didn't know even how to get started. So the first step we took was we have a marketing partner that we've been doing business for a long period of time, and consulted with them. And lo and behold, that's one of the things that they were starting to develop was social media consulting. And since then, I've been approached by numerous consulting firms. And so if you're looking for that kind of help, Leigh's company, among others, there's plenty of them out there that can hold your hand and get you started with social media, which is what we did. And the first thing is real simple: create a page. We started with Facebook. We created a Twitter page and a YouTube page. And they're not that complicated. It's pretty simple. Don't think that you have to be a web designer to do this. I could have done it myself, but again, we hired somebody to do it for us, got us started. We went on a 6-month plan with them for them to consult with us to develop our Facebook and Twitter following. What that meant was they would consult with us almost on a daily basis to provide us with content and making sure that our tweets and Facebook posts were relevant. And at the same time, this company is also our web developer, and they're working with us on search engine optimization, which Twitter and Facebook are both very important to get your website more visible. So we started that out, and within a few months, we really didn't need that anymore. I hired a full-time community outreach coordinator, which social media is just one of her duties. And she really wasn't, she's a younger person. She has Facebook following herself, and so she knew Facebook, and there's plenty of those kind of people out there. But she was a good addition to our team. She came in worked with the consulting firm, got the pages established, and immediately went to work developing a following. So how do you build a following? That's kind of the $1,000,000 question. People don't automatically find you unless they've heard a story and those kind of things. We found, and our consultants agreed that everybody likes something for free, a giveaway. So we started with our first giveaway was I think a Clearwave golf shirt or something like that. Like us and have a chance to win the golf shirt. And then it was a little bit bigger prize. And a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. I think we've gone to a single giveaway about a $500 set of prizes. But what that did is we set goals, and you have to set goals for your followership in order for it to grow. We started with 100 for our first one. Easily achieved that through our mailing lists and people that within the company, asking them to like us and tell their friends to like us. Before you know it, you'll have 100 people following you. And then each level gets a little bit more challenging. We went to 200, 500, 800, and then so this next, and this is all over a period of about 6 months. We're getting ready to do our next push, which will wrap up the year with our goal to get to 1,000. I thought we were doing pretty good. My friend that kind of led me to this took her about 2 or 3 years to get to 1,500. And our goal is to get to, kind of talk about our goals here. Our goal is to get to, in the short term, which I mean the project period, before the end of August of 13, get to around 4,000. The project's going to end then, but our goal is to continue this on, and we'll convert it to just Clearwave rather than Clearwave Broadband, which is our project website. And then my next set of goals would be to get to 10,000. I think once we're at 10,000 in our area, it will be a very vital tool for our company, not only commercially, but as a leader in the area to push action and change and be that catalyst. People from all ages in our area using Facebook. And I'm talking a lot about Facebook because our strategy for Facebook works because there are a lot of people that are on Facebook, young and old. And everybody knows everybody where we live. That's the true thing about rural areas. And so everybody is connected. Kind of going into my past, I kind of use this analogy is that when I was in the cellular business back in the late 90s, I couldn't go to a family function or out to a party or anything like that without somebody walking up to me and saying, "Hey, what kind of phone do you have?" I show my phone and I go, "That's really neat. Is that the new one? When's the next one coming out?" And that went on for about 8-9 years. And what I can tell you is happening right now when I go out to family functions or any type of function, unless you whip out the brand new iPhone or something like that, people are more interested in what kind of broadband service. What do you have at your house? Well, I've got this. What do you have there? We don't get anything, And so that's what I'm seeing in our area. People are talking about broadband. And what we really see Facebook being is a immense tool for driving adoption. If you're not using Facebook now, I can almost guarantee you will within a short period of time. It's kind of like the internet. Not everybody adopted it overnight back in the day, but a huge percentage of our population are using the internet every day. I see Facebook being the same way. Twitter is more of our national strategy. At least in the near term, we don't see ourselves doing business outside of Illinois. That obviously can change. And Twitter, what we use Twitter for is to get our name out a little bit nationally, but we follow industry leaders, economic development initiatives, government, and what we use that for is to retweet to our followers, which we have about 500 Twitter followers, and to post on Facebook. We're always looking for, and that's kind of the challenge, is finding interesting content. So keeping it brief, relevant, and interesting, and most of all keeping it social. We don't sell on Facebook. It's strictly promoting the project and the benefits to the area, keeping people abreast of what's going on with these federal and state dollars that are being spent, and transparency. So that's really, from our perspective, I mean, we have a long-term strategy. We're just getting started. I'm no expert in social media, but this is from a perspective of someone that's just started using it in the last year for commercial purposes. I would invite you to start doing it. We are seeing effects and results from it. Our website numbers are going up. We're getting direct inquiries through Facebook about service. Any other type of thing like that, they're starting to happen. The base is starting to grow organically. People are finding us and liking what we're doing. And it really isn't that difficult. It just takes a little bit of effort. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask a few hard questions, but I'm also going to open it up. Couple things, Leigh and Mike. When your clients or your customers or the consulting firm that you work with, Mike, what were some of the things that they asked you to think about? Or Leigh, in your case, what did you tell people to think about before they started a social media campaign? Are there speakers there, or is there a mic that they can pass? Should I pass the mic over?
I guess there should be another one.
We go through a process.
Is it on?
With each one of our clients' work. Part of the goal is to, in some ways, get the microphone on. We got it. Okay. Is in some ways talk them out of it, and we feel like if we can get them to talk themselves out of doing social media, then they'll distill down what they actually want to get out of it. We're not big fans of social media for social media's sake. It's very easy to just say, well, we need a Facebook page. Why? I don't know, but it's in the paper every day. So having a clear set of defined goals comes from asking the question, why do we really want to do this? And as Mike said also, you open your brand up to a level of scrutiny that you might not be familiar or comfortable with, and it's working now. There's nothing wrong with that, but understanding, okay, are we going to use this as a mechanism for feedback? Are we going to use this to brand build? Or are we going to use it to engage in commerce? All three of those are correct answers. We see examples of that all the time. But understanding why you're doing it, not just doing it for the sake of being in social media is key. By doing that also, when the marketing bucket gets down to, okay, what are we going to cut? Then social media remains as a legitimate channel rather than just a frivolous tchotchke. So that would be the things that I would consider is sit down and say, why are we actually doing this? And are we ready to take the time and effort? And that's Mike's company to do so. Yeah.
Mike, did you get some feedback from your consulting company about what you needed to think through before you launched your social media campaign?
Yes, we did. The things that Leigh mentioned primarily, but because we're really up to our neck in this project, one of the things that we really had to focus on is how much time we had to dedicate to this. Facebook is, I kind of compare it to, or social media, excuse me, I compare it to a diet and exercise regimen. It's not going to work unless you do it every day. And there are limits. You can't do it too much, just like diet and exercise. Just sitting down and figuring out, do I have the manpower, the time resources to put together an effective campaign and manage it. What we found after our consultant kind of let us loose, we went to some other classes that others were offering, and we found applications, third-party applications that will help you manage your social media campaign. Hootsuite, seismic, there's a ton of them out there. So that's another thing I encourage you to look into is how to leverage time and put together a social media campaign that is effective. I mean, once you recruit followers, they're looking for things to come from you. You can't just do this on a once a month basis because they're going to get bored of it and leave you.
Just to add on to that. If you decide to start, it's really hard to stop. It's sort of turning the sign around in your door and saying we're open. And if all of a sudden somebody gets busy and they don't post for a day or a week or a month, we use the exercise analogy all the time. If you're a user and you have to sort of think in the mind of the next incremental user because audiences are naturally growing, they're growing organically. So if you haven't posted to your Facebook feed or your Twitter feed or your blog in a month and someone discovers it and they see that the last time you posted was September 14th, you're out of business in their minds. So making the decision to source these kinds of projects correctly where you can be there, whether it's every day or there's so much pattern analysis going on and what's the optimal time to contribute to social channels, but getting a feel for what your audience is actually looking for and then catering to the audience needs is really important. It's sort of like wondering when your audience wants to connect with you. If they have the desire for your services, that might be in the middle of the night, it might be on weekends. So it's not trying to be intimidating, but recognize that people are on social channels every day, and so brands need to be there as well.
So that's a really good point, because a lot of times you need to think about sustainability. People get very excited when they first start social media, but they don't think about the long haul. So, for example, are you going to put content on your Facebook, or are you going to tweet one time a day, twice a week, because you're sort of setting expectations, and what you want to think about is it being sustainable. So just by way of example, in terms of the things you have to think about before you start a social media campaign with MEO, our goal was to inform and connect and educate about the benefits of broadband. And so what we're trying to do is get the articles and stories and bits of information or videos or infographics. It's all about the benefits of broadband, and the audience is defined as the ones who need that information in order to build a business case to get broadband, whether it is to a rural area or to health or to education. So we're constantly looking for content that is relevant to that audience that helps them make that point or prove that case. And then what we've been doing is connecting with by finding who is on Facebook or Twitter, and LinkedIn talking about those issues, and then we follow them, we chat with them, and then what we're finding is that as we send that kind of information out there and they follow us, they retweet it. It's a slow growing process because you have to get known, but to their point earlier, you have to be very clear. Who is it that you're trying to reach, why, and how much and how often are you going to do it that you can sustain on an ongoing basis?
I would add that I think 6 months is about the correct time frame for judging whether or not this is going to be an effective channel for you. Here's a nickel's worth of free advice. Right now, selling doesn't work very well on Facebook. Unless Walmart's going to give it a really big push this holiday season. JCPenney has moved their entire online catalog into a Facebook tab. But primarily, trying to sell to your audience when you can't predict exactly when they're going to be there is really difficult. So the best way to make a connection with your audience is to be at a family event or a barbecue with them. What would you talk about? Would you talk about your offer every single day if you were at a barbecue or a family event with them? They would leave if you did. But they might say, okay, well, what kind of broadband do you have at your house? Why is that better? Does 50 meg, suit my needs for my small business, or is 100 meg? When is the next fiber trench going to be running? But this kind of informational content that shows that you are not trying to sell to them, that you're trying to build a relationship with an individual much in the same way that some of us are going to try and build relationships here that we take from here and go back home with, is what works at social media. This doesn't sell seminar tickets, doesn't sell headlines, but the process is pretty simple. Build a relationship with your audience as if the brand was an individual and your audience member is an individual. Ask them questions, give them answers to questions that they have. Keep in touch with them on a regular basis, and then build a relationship over time, and naturally they will come to you for the service when they need it. Do you have anything to add to that? Or?
I'd echo that, and that fit very well with our organization. We're not a hard sell type company. We're a relationship building company, and especially if you're in telecommunications, you understand this at enterprise level. It's not about price so much all the time. It's about trust. And if you can establish a relationship that way and be known in your market as a company that informs and is pushing change rather than pushing your services all the time, I think it'll be more effective.
Yeah, so for the people in the room who are going to be broadband advocates, you want to become known. I mean, so many people in this room know so much about this issue, but who knows that about you? So you want to establish that presence out there with an audience that about all the information that you know, so that when those questions come up, they will know to come to you for that information. And you will demonstrate that knowledge and experience by what you put out there on social media. But let me open to the audience for questions. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Catherine from Satoa in North Carolina. We represent local interest in broadband across 4 states. And my question is more on the political side of things. We found this huge generational problem that the guys who are out there making the laws don't even know how to work a computer. And they're standing up in hearings and saying things like fiber or wireless is going to put fiber out of business in 5 years. So I'm just kind of curious. You said you found old people and young people both using the tweet and social media. Can you talk a little bit about this gap that might exist with our legislators, and how effective is it if we create this great campaign?
Yeah, this is the election cycle where social media is. I mean, Howard Dean started it all a long time ago. Okay, Barack campaigns in 2008. Each subsequent campaign has gotten more sophisticated about its social media. This election cycle is going to be the one to watch. If your local politicians are not on social media, they're not going to win. That is going to be a baseline. That's good for everybody else because that requires them to listen to be effective. So we're getting calls from more politicians than I could ever imagine. And we focus on healthcare, insurance, financial services, consumer products. But we're getting more calls from politicians because they understand that if they're not actively engaged in social channels, they're just not going to win. So that's a good thing for everybody. That allows their audiences to go to them and say, this issue is important to me. Aside from that, it's about educating those who are going to be advocates for you to go and now be a thorn in the side of the politician to say, let's all group together and send 100 tweets or 100 LinkedIn group comments or 100 Facebook comments on one Facebook post because they will take notice. And it might surprise them a little bit that their audience has such direct access to them. But it's great to watch political campaigns getting so involved because it's really what the process was supposed to be about. It wasn't supposed to be that I need $25,000 to have lunch with you and then you heard me. Now it's free and I can say whatever I want with 25,000 of my friends.
So you're saying they're actually, if they aren't doing it, they're hiring people who are.
Yeah, okay, so go back to the generational gap. The other good thing is that the fastest growing demographic segment on all of these channels tend to be the older demographic, 45 to 54. I was a little frightened when my 76-year-old father friended me on Facebook. It was weird, but he sees pictures of my son now that way. And they made it easy enough. It's counterintuitive because everyone thinks Facebook's getting harder to use, but it's getting more adoptable by an older generation, where it was, fix the VCR kind of stuff for the younger generation. It's usable and getting used for different reasons, but adoption is really high and growing fast with the 45 to 65. age group, on both genders.
So let me have another question. My job is to get everyone on time to the 12 o'clock event, so I just want to put out another question. There's going to be another session of this tomorrow, so if you want to come back to ask more questions, let's do that then. Feel free to come back. Do you have any more questions about some, issue or challenge that you found about social media or something you want to know? Okay, let's check something just for instant feedback that doesn't require social media. So after this, do you feel that you're going to do more with social media? If you are, raise your hands. Excellent.
Good.
Super. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy your lunch.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.